Continuing to episode 3, Choka was running to find Mary. Eventually, she found her in the room while Mary was having dinner. Choka intended to tell her about the new transfer student, Namura. Elsewhere, Nana was explaining the true events of her defeat by Namura to Rin. Rin now knew the actual facts, as the news circulating differed from what actually happened. Rin decided not to let Namura touch any other Supreme 5 swords. Mary then received information from Choka that Namura is now under Rin's supervision. Mary was not pleased with that and wanted to confront Namura herself. In Masukodera's room, Namura was seen reading a Risque magazine. Masukodera suggested hiding the magazine. She reminded Namura of his current situation, having defeated Choka, who was one of the subordinates of the Supreme 5 swords, namely Mary Kikakujo. Masukodera shared that Mary was more ruthless than Rin. While Rin liked to drive away students, Mary preferred to corner them. Both of them were now targeting Namura. Namura then asked if there was a survivor from their attacks. Masukodera confirmed it, mentioning Empress, who could defeat Rin and Mary attacking together. Masukodera described Empress's attacks as more like Namura, now serious, continued like a sword, recalling an incident when he was defeated by a man with bare hands. Namura then pondered if someone else had transferred to the school just before he did. He asked if, based on the description, Empress was likely a woman. Masukodera confirmed it. Namura continued to think, looking somewhat confused. In the morning, Rin came to Nomura's dorm, calling his name and asking him to come out. Namura reluctantly changed into his school uniform and went out to meet her. Rin explained that, to maintain order in the school, someone needed to watch over Namura. She then checked Namura's bag but found nothing suspicious. Namura asked if Rin would follow him everywhere except in the dorms, as it contradicted his belief in freedom. Namura emphasized, would Rin even follow him to the toilet? Rin replied, should I do that? Namura thought it was just a joke, but Rin's face looked serious. Mary suddenly appeared and said it was a serious matter. Monitoring Namura's behavior was a necessity, because Namura had infiltrated the girls' dorm, causing a big mess and desecrating their sacred area. Moreover, he dared to touch and insult Rin, Nono, and Choka. Namura, hearing this, was surprised because the gossip circulating was worse than he thought. Rin then explained that it was just a common misunderstanding. Rin also assured that Namura wouldn't dare to do anything inappropriate, so Rin herself would watch over him and ensure this issue would not happen again. Mary was not pleased with Rin's words. Mary perceived that Rin's attitude had changed since Namura kissed her. It became strange. Intending to face Mary, Rin instructed Namura to leave first. Rin then told Mary that Namura belonged to her, so she didn't want Mary to touch him. Mary couldn't accept Rin's decision, and now they had no other choice but to fight to resolve the issue. Rin and Mary drew their respective swords, and Mary ordered Choka to chase after Namura. While running, Choka began attacking Namura with her whip. She said she wouldn't make the same mistake as before facing Namura one-on-one. Namura was unsure about it. He then removed his belt and used it to block Choka's whip attacks. After Namura's belt and Choka's whip were entangled, Namura pulled it. But suddenly, Choka's eyes bulged and foam appeared in her mouth. She then fell unconscious. Namura was surprised, but he quickly realized, then looked at his lower part with his pants slipping down, as he forgot to wear underwear in a hurry when Rin called him earlier in the morning. Namura then adjusted his pants, worried that someone might see him like that. From a distance, there was a woman watching him. He stood looking in Namura's direction. It seemed Namura recognized her, who he thought was named Amu. The battle between Mary and Rin was won by Mary. Mary said that Rin was still in the recovery period after being sick, so she couldn't unleash her true strength. Mary then left Rin and went after Namura. Namura, seeing Amu, approached her, but Amu told him to step back. In his heart, Namura thought her voice tone was slightly higher but sounded similar. The girl in front of him resembled a man named Amu who, in the past, told him to be his subordinate and managed to defeat Namura. Namura saw similarities in their eye gaze and aura. The woman kept telling Namura to step back, saying she needed preparation to face him. Namura was confident that she was Amu, although Namura was confused about when the Amu he knew had turned into a woman. The woman replied that she was very different from the Amu Namura was talking about and that she had been a woman since birth. Namura wanted to prove that with his punch, so he ran towards the girl to hit her. However, from behind, Mary's voice calling him could be heard. Mary then pointed towards Namura's lower part with trembling hands. It turned out Namura hadn't worn his pants properly, and Mary saw something of Namura's. Mary turned away, and she saw Chuka lying limp, uttering strange words. Meanwhile, as Nomura's gaze shifted to Mary, Amu had disappeared from her place. Nomura felt a strong killing aura, which actually came from Mary, who was very angry because Namura treated Chuka like that. Elsewhere, Amu was in a dark room, envisioning her past when she met Nomura after successfully defeating her enemies. Amu heard rumors that Namura had bullets. Seeing him directly, Amu approved the name because, judging from the style and speed, it truly matched his name. At that time, Amu was asking Namura to be her subordinate, but before she could finish her words, Namura seemed to move to hit her. Nomura's punch was about to hit Amu's face, but his movement stopped because Amu's hand had successfully stabbed his stomach. Amu then beat him with her bare hands. Nomura fell with a serious wound in his stomach. Nomura had also heard about Amu's power, named Katana. According to Nomura, it was a fitting name for Amu's image. Nomura managed to touch Amu's stomach, and Amu was ready to attack Nomura again with her left hand. The flashback stopped there, and now Amu, alone in the dark room, regretted that moment because she didn't finish off Namura quickly. Amu felt something strange in her heart. She thought it might be something. However, she denied it because she would never admit it. With great anger, Amu gripped the Buddha statue behind her, causing it to crack, and vowed to beat Nomura if she encountered him again. In the classroom, Tsukuyo was seen cleaning the blackboard. She heard that Mary and Nomura were fighting in a room. Mary appeared to be attacking Namura relentlessly, looking very serious as if she wanted to kill him. Nomura kept trying to avoid Mary's attacks, and he had to resort to holding Mary's sword thrust with his metal gloves. However, Mary's flat and sharp sword managed to penetrate his metal gloves. Nomura thought to himself that the blade-proof material on his gloves was effective against slashes, but thrusting attacks like Mary's could easily penetrate it. What made Nomura feel more challenged now was that he didn't know much about Western swordsmanship. From inside the classroom, Tsukuyo, who was aware of the fight, pondered how Nomura could avoid Mary's attacks, which resembled Japanese swordsmanship. Still, Mary's hip and left-facing legs moved differently from the Japanese sword style. Flexible movements using the knees and toes allowed her to accelerate her attacks. Mary continued to relentlessly attack Nomura, successfully hitting and injuring several parts of his body. In his mind, Namura thought that if it continued like this, he would be trapped by her movements and cornered. Mary's strategy was to keep attacking Nomura, preventing him from having a chance to counterattack. All she needed to do was erode Nomura's strength, and simultaneously, the pain would wear down his mental strength. Outside, Rin was walking unsteadily, searching for Mary and Nomura. She accidentally saw Chuka lying helpless. Rin asked about their whereabouts, but Chuka could only say they were on the Spanish Steps, pointing with her fingers, and then she fainted again. Rin had no understanding of the code Chuka provided. While looking around, Rin finally found a place that might be what Chuka meant, and she walked there. In their fight, Mary successfully stabbed Namura several times with her sword. Nomura had no opening to attack her. Mary deliberately targeted areas where nerve concentrations were, causing him to reflexively retreat and slowing down his attacks. Additionally, Namura had no special weapons. Nomura felt he had reached his limit, and there was no point in defending anymore. Running towards Mary, Namura surprised her. Seeing Nomura moving in to attack, Mary prepared a stance to anticipate it and confidently thrust her sword towards Nomura's stomach. However, Mary sensed something unusual in the texture she stabbed. Nomura had anticipated Mary's attack. A large comic magazine was hidden under his clothes, intentionally kept from Rin when she searched his bag. Seeing this, Mary stepped back to maintain distance, realizing that Namura was unarmed and unlikely to successfully attack her. However, Mary forgot that Namura had a thick magazine. He slammed the magazine onto Mary's head and swiftly touched her stomach, performing his special move, the Spirit Bullet, causing Mary to be thrown back and fall. Namura already knew Mary's weakness. She couldn't use her left hand for defense, as it was a rule in fencing. However, Namura regretted that Mary still clung to that rule, even in their current situation. Mary, embarrassed, asked Nomura if he would treat her as he did to Rin, as depicted in a doujinshi Mary had read. Nomura surprisingly said no. Mary couldn't accept that, thinking that Rin was more captivating to him. Nomura, nonchalant, continued reading his comic magazine, ignoring Mary's words. Mary, furious, imagined Nomura enjoying the moment when he kissed Rin and mistreated Nono and Shoka. If Namura didn't do anything to her, it would be very embarrassing. Mary then offered Namura to touch her chest, but Namura flatly refused. Mary became suspicious, thinking perhaps Namura preferred smaller breasts. Namura responded that he liked them big, he just hated being forced to do something. Without beating around the bush, Namura then asked Mary for the stamp for the school exit permit. Mary smiled upon hearing this and took out the stamp she had with her, slipping it into her cleavage. With that, Mary thought that whether he liked it or not, Namura had to touch her chest. Namura hesitated, wanting to take the stamp, but he stuck to his principle of not doing something if forced. Mary looked disappointed, thinking that all men were creatures who only followed their desires, but it turned out there were still men like Namura who valued morality more than their desires. Mary admitted her defeat. Unexpectedly, Rin witnessed the entire incident. With furious anger, Rin then indiscriminately attacked Namura. Mary tried to protect Namura by saying that she was testing him, and Namura didn't touch her even after Mary went that far. That meant Namura had no desire for Rin at all. Rin was confused by that statement. Then Mary offered to give her stamp, but with the condition that she would monitor Namura together with Rin. Of course, Rin didn't accept that. Finally, the two of them argued again about who was actually entitled to monitor Namura.